Hey guys, it's your pal Victor, and we just watched the finale of the Book of Boba Fett. I'm going to talk about it right now. Hey guys, you might have noticed we did not do weekly recaps or watch parties for the Book of Boba Fett, and part of it was we did it for the first episode, and then I was not blown away by the first episode of the show, and after the second episode, which I watched like a day later on my own, I'm like, okay, getting better. But overall, I feel like this show was not as good as The Mandalorian. And then The Mandalorian had to show up and save the show, basically, because while this show might have been called The Book of Boba Fett, it's basically like an interlude for The Mandalorian, or you could call it Mandalorian Season 1.5, because here overall the issues with the season, I'm just gonna pin them down, is the fact that everybody loved the idea of Boba Fett. He's one of those characters like Moon Knight, that it's such a cool costume, but it doesn't really have a character. And that's actually the whole point of the show, The Mandalorian. It's like, well, they couldn't use Boba Fett at the time, so it's like, let's just use the armor and make a cool character out of it, right? And they did. And The Mandalorian is exactly what you would imagine, like, Boba Fett would be like this badass Clint Eastwood bounty hunter in space western, right? With a heart of gold, so it's like Lone Wolf and Cub. So when they got the ability to do a Boba Fett show, you already imbued a lot of the qualities you'd have to put in Boba Fett in The Mandalorian, so you can't do the exact same thing. So they went with this weird decision to kind of make Boba Fett this sort of like Last Samurai / Dances with Wolves / Avatar kind of, like, oh, I've gone native and now I'm like the most straight-laced hero ever. And unfortunately, the issue with that is when we saw the Tusken Raiders flashbacks, I mean, it seemed like he came out pretty much a hero right from out of the Sarlacc pit, so it's not like we really saw a big progression. And a super straight-laced hero is really boring, and I think that's one of the issues that a lot of writers have had writing Superman movies. Like, because if you look at like Superman Returns or Man of Steel, they tend to write Superman as like conflicted space Jesus, and Boba Fett is kind of like, well, let's make it like, oh, he was a bad guy. We've touched it in that in the original trilogy. And so, okay, where were we going to go with that? Well, let's just not have him in 2 of the episodes of his own series and just make it Mandalorian-centric all the way. And I'm not going to knock this season. As a whole, I think this is a show that probably should have been, like, dumped all at once, like, binge-worthy, but I think Disney probably wanted the, oh my god, Baby Yoda's back, or oh my god, these characters are showing up, like Cad Bane, who totally got nerfed this week, Jesus. But I'm gonna talk about the last few episodes because overall, like they did a really good job with Luke Skywalker last week. But yeah, this Book of Boba Fett largely seems like a Marvel movie in that it feels like it was there to set up other things. Like it was there to set up the next season of The Mandalorian, because they realized they couldn't really do Mandalorian without Baby Yoda. And they needed to set up the Ahsoka Tano series, and they needed to set up Luke in where he ends up in the terrible sequel trilogy, which we saw the beginnings of the school where, all that shit's gonna go down. And how Luke didn't fuck up Grogu. So there you go. But this episode I actually thought was really cool. It had like a really cool setup with the the Godfather-esque betrayal scene where all the families turned against Boba Fett, which we all saw coming. It had a good Chekhov's gun payoff for the Rancor, right? Because we were all wondering what was going to happen to that Rancor. And we saw use of the dark saber. We saw what else happened. We saw Chrysanto, who's now known as Santo, basically turn into a hero. So he's going to be basically like, you know, Boba's right-hand man besides Fennec Shand. And we saw very confusing post-credit scene where most people are like, who was in the back to tank? Well, it was clearly Cobb Vanth, who's now going to be a cyborg mod. Although, like, why would he need mods if he's in the back to tank? Does that even make sense? Does it? Well, we've never really gotten a good example of how back to tanks work. I mean, otherwise, I guess, Luke could have regrown his hand in the back to tank. Is that a plot hole, or is the back to tank not that strong? Who knows? Who knows? But overall, the action was really good. This whole episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it kind of played a lot like El Mariachi, just space western, kind of like Mariachi. It's a western, like a character is recorded off. The way Grogu was able to use his powers to help, but not in an overwhelming way. We've seen Grogu use his powers in much more powerful ways. Here was kind of nerfed, which is good. And we saw, their bond redeveloped. So he's all slate is blank, ready for the next show. The mechanic's going to end up with that wuss of a major domo. And Fennec is still the badass. I mean, I feel like this is what's funny, is that in a way I feel like Boba Fett, even though it's not as good a show as Mandalorian, has ended up with a better supporting cast of side characters than The Mandalorian, who basically just has Grogu, and that's pretty much it. Because most of his supporting characters just go off to their own series. So if that's how they're going to use The Mandalorian moving forward, just to set up characters for other series, it's actually cool. I feel like they're not teasing another season of Book of Boba Fett. I feel like they're teasing that Cobb Vanth will be back to be able to be used in a future Mandalorian episode, which is awesome. I kind of think that's what's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a second season of this show. I hate to say it, but I think the fact that Boba Fett wasn't in half the season of his own show tells you there's not that much they could do with his character. He's kind of one-dimensional, and it's sad that the actual mantle of Boba Fett probably falls better on the Mandalorian than Boba Fett, who, like, I really like Tamora Morrison, and it's not his fault. It's the writing just made Boba Fett a super one-dimensional character. It's like, he's basically perfect as an action figure. He's like the most straight-laced daimyo, benevolent ruler of a planet ever. Even down to the fact that they made spice a drug in this we all know, but it's like, the way they treated spice in this episode, totally, it's bad for the planet. I'm like, oh my god. So spice, it's just drug runners, right? And the Pike Syndicate is like, they're gonna go down in history as the most one-dimensional villains since the Chitauri in Avengers, because man, they're just like shy guys who exist to get shot. I mean, it's kind of pathetic, but it's fun. They had a cool visual look. The mod gang is cool. I like that they all survived, and they, again, another Chekhov's gun, these guys can save Cobb Vanth. So, they set up enough stuff that had payoffs, and I like that. I like that the fact that you put stuff in your stories that eventually has payoffs, and you deliver on those payoffs, it's a solid story, even if the main character was the most boring character on the show, which is just funny in so many ways. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the next season of Mandalorian, and the show is overall the best way to watch this thing is just to binge it. The week-to-week thing for this show didn't work. But yeah, if you have a chance, just watch it. It's a cool show. And anyway, those are my thoughts on the finale of the Book of Boba Fett. The Rancor writing was really cool. Other than that, the siege was cool. And I'm all for more R2-D2 cameos. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Hope you enjoyed my breakdown, and talk to y'all later. Peace out.